Hello, everyone. What came to mind just now is that I grew up and I saw Good Morning to Vietnam. Good Morning Vietnam by Robin Williams. And I almost opened it. I just remember as a kid, like the cuss, he was like, "Good morning, Vietnam. It is hot. It is damn hot." And I feel like that's what the weather is today. But that's what I remember. Robin Williams was amazing. As you guys probably know, that's not the point of this video. Let's get started on the less funny stuff, but good news. So it's good stuff, but less funny. Mortgage rates, they have dropped. Finally. I mean, you won't see it in these numbers. So this is the, let's see, we got Freddie Mac over here. We got the Mortgage News Daily over here showing rates at 7.44 and 6.96. But here's the rates. Check this out. Just this week, look at what we did. We reversed last week's damage. So last week, July 4th, just a lot of things that just came out not in our favor, job reports, things like that. But the inflation numbers yesterday and today have finally shown that we are right, and that inflation is coming down. So the CPI came out yesterday. That was the really big move. The PPI, which is like the producer price, meaning like the stores we buy from, like the stores are now, that's going lower than expected. The CPI made major gains. I won't go over this chart with you, but you guys can kind of see what they are. Just look at the airlines. I mean, that alone, what a drop. 19% year over year drop in inflation with them. So that's great. Shelter, we know, is a big component of that. So guys, all that's to say, inflation is coming down. So this is the CPI number. You guys can see this graph. We've been saying it since January, February, that once this comes down in a meaningful way, rates will start hopefully to follow more of the fundamentals. It's taken longer than we thought because the bank crisis and even the debt ceiling with the government, that caused a lot of things that we didn't expect. That's part of the reason why our rates are still elevated. However, you guys can see, and we've shown you this graph many times over, shelter costs have been coming down year over year, and those are lagging in the CPI. So you guys can see the big blue line here. Check that. That was back in May of 2022, a year ago. And you guys can finally see how the yellow line, the CPI shelter cost, is finally starting to make that turn and come lower. So we do expect that to continue to come down in the coming months. How much to be determined, but we do expect that to hopefully help with inflation. And remember, lower inflation will soon, someday, result in lower interest rates. We're not there yet, but this was a really good move these last 2 days. So here's just more, the CPI, PPI, those are the two numbers that just came out. You guys can see both are moving down in a very meaningful way in the last couple months. That is awesome. And by the way, side note, I didn't know this, so I thought this was interesting. The HICP, that's apparently how Europe and like the UK measure their inflation, and they don't consider some of the things we do for housing, which is a 42% of what we measure here in ours. They don't consider a lot of those things. So their inflation is much, much lower than our numbers, just based on these metrics, just because they don't take some of those things into account. So I just thought that was very interesting. I know you may not, for all the nerds out there. Good for you. More CPI graphs. We're going to move on. Oh, I thought this was fascinating. Rolexes. Apparently, guys, if you bought a Rolex during the pandemic, you may be hurting right now because they're down 31% since last year. So I guess people were worried about inflation. Apparently, people way richer than me were buying like really expensive Rolexes as a hedge against inflation. I don't totally understand that. I mean, I get why, but I didn't know that there's a market that's liquid for it. But hey, if you bought a Rolex, it may be worth 31% less than when you bought it. Who knows? Lastly, guys, home prices, they're higher. Like DFW has been great, but even as a nation, people are like, oh, house pricing bust. Guys, depends on which one of these you want to look at. We are literally back to all-time highs for price appreciation in some of these metrics. So some we still got a little making up to do, but I tell you, again, last year, we were up 6% last year in appreciation. It started, the first half of the year was up 9%. Yeah, we lost 3% in the second half of the year, but that's still a positive 6%. The numbers right now are still projecting similar 4 to 6% appreciation this year. So house prices continue to get more expensive. So this whole bubble thing, I'm not seeing it. Maybe it is. I don't think so, because again, supply is outweighing, or there's limited supply and demand is still there. So I don't see it. And in fact, if you took the core logic numbers just for May, guys, 0.9, annualize that, that's over 10% appreciation. Take the 0.7 from Black Knight. Again, that's 9%-ish in appreciation year over year. The housing prices is still hot. So share this information with your buyers and say, now is a good time to buy. I've gotten some haters on social saying like, this is the mortgage guy pushing his agenda. No, it's called math. It's called facts. So houses keep getting more expensive. Buy. I know rates are higher. They can and will be coming down. How much, when, I don't know. We shall see. I'm still predicting that we'll see some meaningful drops here in the coming months. So lastly, this was just my fun one for the week. Apparently a teenager got taken in by security at an airline because he bought like from a flight from, I forget where, it doesn't matter, but call it New York, from Florida to New York, let's say, with a layover in North Carolina. Well, apparently he lived in North Carolina. So they saw the driver's license, like, hey, you're going to get off and not finish the leg of this flight. I didn't know people did that. Apparently that's a thing. It's not allowed from a flight standpoint. They don't want you just taking half your leg. They want you doing the whole thing. So I learned something, not that I do it, but if you do, think twice. It's a real thing. They frown upon it. Lastly, important stuff, Texas Senate, which I think is going to be official here soon. They are giving us homeowners and property owners $18 billion of tax relief. So I think I heard and read somewhere else that this should equate to about $700 on average of savings per year and to a household for taxes. So that's awesome. So go us. Texas has like a $36 billion surplus. We got so much money because all these people are coming in and spending money in Texas, buying homes and other such things. So we got money and they're giving it back to us. So we'll see when it's official. We'll report on it. But basically they're taking that homestead exemption from 40 grand to 100 grand, which helps us all. So share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Do what you're supposed to do to be social with us. We love and appreciate you guys as always. And if you need anything from us, remember, call us. And when you think mortgage, think Mark.